Just after Victor lost his job at the Bureau of India Affairs, he also found out that his father had died of a heart attack in Phoenix. After then, Victor had seen his father in a few years, had only talked to him on the telephone once or twice, but there still was a genetic pain which was as real and immediate as a broken bone. Victor didn't have any money. Who does have money on a reservation? Except the cigarette and the fireworks, says people. His father had a saving account waiting to be claimed, but Victor needed to find a way to get from Spokane to Phoenix. Victor's mother was just as poor as he was, and the rest of his life didn't have any use of or for him, so Victor called the terrible council. Listen, Victor said, my father just died. I need some money to get to Phoenix to make arrangements now, Rector. The council said, you know we are having a difficult time financially, but I saw the council had a special fund set aside for stuff like this. Now, Victor, we do have some money available for the proper return of terrible members' parties, but I don't think we have enough to bring your father all the way back from the Phoenix. Well, Victor said, it ain't going to cost all that much. He had to be cremated. Things were kind of ugly. He died of a heart attack in his travel, and nobody found him for a week. It was really hard too. You get a picture now, Victor. We are sorry for your loss in the circumstances, but we can really only afford to give you $100. That's not even enough for plane tickets. Well, you might consider driving down to the Phoenix. I don't have a car. Besides, I was going to drive my father's pickup back up here. Now, the council said, we are sure there is somebody who could drive you to Phoenix, or could anybody lend you the rest of the money? You know, there aren't anybody around with the kind of money. We're sorry, Victor, but this is the best we can do. Victor accepted the Tribal Council's offer. What else could he do? So he signed the proper papers, picked up his check, and worked over the timbered purse to cash it. While Victor stood in line, he watched Thomas build the fire, standing near the magazine rack, talking to himself like he always did. Thomas was a storyteller whom nobody wanted to listen to. It's like being a dentist in a town where everybody has flesh teeth. Victor and Thomas built the firewood the same age, had grown up and played in the dirt together. Ever since Victor could remember, it was Thomas who had always had something to say. Once when they were 7 years old, when Victor's father still lived with the family, Thomas closed his eyes and told Victor this story. Your father's heart is weak. He's afraid of his own family. He's afraid of you late at night. He sits in the dark, watches the television until there is nothing but light or noise. Sometimes he feels like he wants to buy a motorcycle and ride away. He wants to run and hide. He doesn't want to be found. Thomas built the fire and had known that Victor's father was going to leave, knowing it before anyone. Now Victor stood in the trading purse with a $100 check in his hand, wondering if Thomas knew that Victor's father was dead, but if he knew what was going to happen next. Just then Thomas looked at Victor, smiled, and walked over to him. Victor, I'm sorry about your father, Thomas said. How did you know about it? Victor asked. I heard it on the wind. I heard it from the birds. I feel it in the sunlight. Also, your mother was just in here crying. Okay, Victor said and looked around the trading post. All the other Indians started surprised that Victor was even talking to Thomas. Nobody talked to Thomas anywhere because he told the same damn stories over and over again. Victor was embarrassed, but he saw that Thomas might be able to help him. Victor felt a certain need for tradition. I can enjoy the money you need, Thomas said. Certainly, but you have to take me with you. I can't take your money, Victor said. I mean, I haven't hardly talked to you in years. We are no longer friends anymore. I didn't say we are friends. I said you had to take me with you. Let me think about it. Victor went home with his $100 and sat at the kitchen table. He held his head in his hands and saw about Thomas build the fire, remembered little details, tears, scares, the bicycle they shared for summer. So many stories. Thomas built the fire, sat on a bicycle, waiting in Victor's. He was 10 years old and skinny. His hair was dirty because it was 1st of July. Victor, Thomas yelled. Hurry up, we are going to miss the fireworks. After a few minutes, Victor ran out of his smelly house, went to the over the park building, and landed gravely on the sidewalk. Thomas gave him a bike and he needed for the fireworks. It was nearly dark and the fireworks were able to start. Thomas said it's strange how as India celebrated 1st July. He answered like it was our independence. Everybody was fighting for you. Think about since Thomas waiter said it just supposed to be fine. Maybe January will be later. Which January? Everybody only reservation is near January. The firework was small and hardly more than a few bottle rockets and the fountain. And the body was enough for the 2 Indians boys. Years later, they would need much more. Afterward, sitting in the dark, fighting of Moscow, waiter turned to Thomas, built the fire. Hey, Rudy said, tell me a story. Thomas closed his eyes and told a story. There were no 2 Indian boys who wanted to be warriors, but it's too late to be warriors in all the way. All the horses were gone, so the 2 Indian boys stole a car and drove to the city. They parked the stolen car in front of the police station and then hitchhiked back home to the reservation. When they go back, the older friends cheered and their parents' eyes showed the pride. You were very brave. Everybody said to the 2 Indian boys, very brave. Yeah, hey, waiter said, let's go. Why? I wish I could be a warrior. Me too, Thomas said. The waiter said at his chicken table he counted his $100 again and again. He knew he needed more to make it from next and back. He knew he needed Thomas build the fire, so he put his money in his wallet and opened the front door and find Thomas on the porch. Hey, Victor, Thomas said, I knew you'd call me. Thomas walked into the living room and sat down in Victor's favorite chair. I've got some money saved up. Thomas said, is it enough to get us done later? But you have to get us back. I've got this $100. Victor said, and my dad had a savings account. I'm going to collect how much in your dad's account enough. A few hundred sounds good when you're leaving. When they were 15 and had a long thing, started being friends. Victor and Thomas going to face fights. Later, Waiter was really drunk and beat Thomas up for no reason at all. All the other Indian boys stood around and watched it happen. Junior was there and so or later, Simmer and a lot of others beating might have gone on until Thomas was died. If Norma many horses hadn't come along and stopped, hey, your boys, Norma yelled and jumped out of the car, leaving him alone. If it hadn't been someone else, even another man, the Indian boys wouldn't just ignore the warning. But Norma was a warrior, so she was so powerful. She could have picked up any 2 of the boys and smashed their schools together. But worse than that, he would have dragged them all over to some pit tip and made them listen to some other tale dusty old story. The Indian boy scattered and Norma walked over to Thomas and picked him up. Hey, little man, are you okay? She asked. Thomas gave her a thumbs up. While they are always speaking on, Thomas shook his hand, closed his eyes, but no stories come to him. No words or music. He just wanted to go home to lie in his bed and let him dreams tell the stories of him. Thomas built the fire and Victor sat next to each other in the airplane couch station. A tiny white woman had the window seat. She was busy twisting her body into the president. She was flexible. I have to ask, Thomas asked, and the waiter closed his eyes in embarrassment. Victor said, excuse me, miss. Thomas asked, are you a governor or something? There is no something about he should. She said, I was first early tonight on the 1980 Olympic team. Really? Thomas asked, really? I mean, you ought to be a world-class ace. Thomas asked, my husband thinks I still am. Thomas built the fire, smiled. She was a mental journalist too. She pulled her leg straight up against her body so that she couldn't kiss her kneecap. I wish I could do that, Thomas said. Victor was ready to jump out of the plane. Thomas, like crazy India storyteller, writer out of breath and broken teeth, was flirting with the beauty Olympic gymnast. Nobody back home on the reservation would ever believe where the journalist said it is easy. Thomas grabbed his leg and tried to pull it up into the same position as the journalist. He couldn't even come close, which made Victor and the journalist laugh. Hey, she asked, you tried India, right? Full blood. Victor said, no, me. Thomas said, I'm a half Mexican on my mother's side and a half Czech on my father's. They all laughed. What are your names? She asked Victor and Thomas. Mine is Cassie. Pleased to meet you at all. There are the 3 of them talked for the direction of the flight. Cassie and Jim complained about the government, how they screwed the 1980 Olympic team back. For boy counting again, sounds like you all go of income with India. Thomas said. Nobody laughed. After the plane landed in Phoenix and they had all from the airway to terminal, Cassie the journalist smiled and waved goodbye. She was really nice. Thomas said, yeah, but everybody talks to everybody on the airplane. Which said, you always used to me. You think too much. Thomas said, now it sounds like you do. Maybe I call you from you. Yeah, Thomas and Victor rode in a taxi to the travel where Victor's father had died. Listen, Victor said as they stopped in front of the travel. I never told you I was sorry for beating you up at the time. Oh, it was nothing. We were just kids, and you were drunk. Yeah, but I'm still sorry. That's all right. Victor paid for the taxi, and the two of them strolled in the hall. For next summer, they could smell the travel. This is going to be nice. Victor said, you don't have to go in. You are going to need help. Victor walked to the front of the door and opened the sting rolled out, and the lamppost got jig. Victor's father had lain in the travel for a week and in 100-degree temperatures before anyone had found him, and the only reason anyone found him was the small. They needed dental records of identity on him. That's exactly what the coroner said. They needed dental records. Orman Victor said, I don't know if I can do this. Well, then don't. But there might be something valuable in there. I saw his money was in the bank. It is. I was talking about pictures and letters and stuff like that. Oh, Thomas said as he held his breath and followed Victor into the travel. When Victor was 12, he stepped into an underground warp's nest. His fur was caught in a hole, and no matter how hard the struggle, Victor couldn't pull free. He might have died there, strung 1,000 tons, if Thomas Beals the fire had not come by. Run! Thomas yelled and pulled Victor's throat from the hole. They are running harder as they ever had, faster than Billy Mills, faster than John Lobb, faster than Wordsworth could fly. Victor and Thomas ran until they couldn't breathe, ran until it was cold and dark outside, ran until they were lost, and it took hours to find their home. All the way back, Victor counted his stings, 7. Victor said, my lucky number. Victor didn't find much to keep in the travel, only a phone, amber, and distillery. Everything else had less more struck in it on a serious way. I guess these are. Victor said, it earns so much. Better than nothing, Thomas said, yeah. And I do have the pickup, yeah. Thomas said, it isn't in good shape. Dad was good about the stuff. Yeah, I remember your dad. Really? Victor said, what do you remember? Thomas built the fire, closed his eyes, and told his story. I remember when I had a string, they told me to go to Sprung and to stand by the first in the middle of the city. And waiting for a sign. I knew I had to go there, but I didn't have a car, didn't have a license, so I was only 13, so I walked all the way. It took me all day, and I finally made it to the first. I stood there for an hour waiting there. Your dad came waking up. What the hell are you doing here? He asked me. I said, waiting for a reason. Then your father said, are you going to get there? It's marked. So he drove me over to Dennis, brought me a dinner, and then drove me home to the reservation. For a long time, I was mad because I saw my dreams had lied to me, but they hadn't. Your dad was my religion. Take care of each other is what my dreams were saying. Take care of each other. Victor was quiet for a long time. He searched his mind for memories of his father, found the good ones, found the few bad ones, added it up and smiled. My father never told me about finding on you in Spokane. Victor said. He said he wouldn't tell anybody, didn't want me to go in trouble, but he said I had to watch out for you as part of the deal. Really? Your father said you would need help. He was right. That's why you came down here with me, isn't it? Victor asked. I came because of your father. Victor and Thomas climbed into the pickup, drove over the bank, and climbed the $300 in the saving account. Thomas built the fire could fly. Once he jumped over the roof in the travel school and flapped his arms like crazy eagle, and he flew. For a second, he hovered suspended above all the other Indian boys who were too smart, too scared to jump to his flying. General yelled, and Summer was busy looking for the trick wires on miners for meters, but it was as real as the dirt. When Thomas lost altitude and crashed to ground, he broke his arm in 2 places. He broke his rings, and all Indian boys chanted as they ran off, flapping their wings, wishing they could fly too. They hated Thomas for his courage, his brave moment as a bird. Everybody had dreams about flying. Thomas flew. One of his dreams come true for just a second, just enough to make it real. Victor's father, his ashes fit in one wooden box with enough left over to fill a cardboard box. He always was a big man. Thomas said. Victor carried a part of his father out of the pickup, and Thomas carried the rest. They set him down carefully behind the seats, put a cowboy hat on the wooden box and the dog's cap on the cardboard box. That was the way it was supposed to be. Ready to head back home because it was going to be a long drive. Yeah, take a couple days, maybe we can take turns. Thomas said. Okay. Victor said. But they didn't take turns. Victor drove for 16 hours straight now, made it half up and never in the townward home before he finally pulled over. Okay, Thomas. Hey, Thomas. Victor said, you go to drive for a while. Okay, Thomas builds the fire, slide behind the wheel, and start off down to the road. All through Nevada, Thomas and Victor had been amazed at the lack of animal life and the absence of water movement. Where is everything? Victor had asked more than once. Now, when Thomas was finally driving, they saw the first animal, maybe the only animal in Nevada. It was long-eared jackrabbit. Look, Victor yelled, it's alive. Thomas and Victor were busy congratulating themselves on their discovery when the jackrabbit darted out into the road and under the wheels of the pickup stopped the garden car. Victor yelled, and Thomas did stop and backed the pickup to the dead jackrabbit. Old man, he said. Victor said as he looked at his crushed animal, really did. They're only thing alive in this whole state, and we just killed it. I don't know. Thomas said, I think it was suicide. Victor looked around the desert, sniffed the air, felt emptiness and loneliness, and nodded his head. Yeah, Victor said it had to be suicide. I can't believe this. Thomas said, you drove for 1,000 miles and there aren't even any bark smashed on the windshield. I drove for 10 seconds and killed the only living thing in Nevada. Yeah. Victor said, maybe I should drive. Maybe you should. Thomas built the fire, walked through the corridors of the tribal school by himself. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near him because of their stories, story after story. Thomas closed his eyes and his story came to him. We are all given one thing by which all our lives are measured, our one determination. Mine are the stories they can change or not change the world. It doesn't matter which, as long as I continue to tell a story. My father, he died on Okinawa in World War II, died fighting for the country which had tried to kill him for years. My mother, she died giving birth to me, died while I was still inside her. She pushed me out into the world with her last breath. I have no brothers or sisters. I have only my stories, which come to me before I even had the words to speak. I named 1,000 stories before I took my first 1,000 steps. They are all I have. It is all I can do. Thomas built the fire, told his stories to all those who would stop and listen. He kept telling them long after people had stopped listening. Victor and Thomas made it back to the reservation just as the sun was rising. It was the beginning of a new day on Earth, but the same old shade on the reservation. Good morning, Thomas said. Good morning. The tribe was waking up, ready for work, eating breakfast, reading the newspaper, just like everybody else does. While Lieber was out in her garden, wearing a bathrobe, she waved the Thomas and Victor drove by. Quit India. Mayday, she said to herself, and went back to her rows. Victor stopped the pickup in front of Thomas built the fire-filled house. They both yawned, stretched a little, shook dust from their bodies. I'm tired, Victor said. Of everything, Thomas added. They both searched for words to end the journey. We turned to thank Thomas for his help and for the money and to make a promise to pay our back. Don't worry about the money, Thomas said. It don't make any difference anyhow. Probably not, and nope. Victor knew that Thomas would remain the crazy storyteller who talked to dogs and cars, who listened to the wind and the pine trees. Victor knew that he couldn't really be friends with Thomas even after all that had happened. It was cruel, but it was real as the edge, as Victor's father stood sitting behind the seats. I know how it is, Thomas said. I knew you aren't going to treat me any better than you did before. I know your friends will give you too much shit about it. Victor was ashamed of himself. Whatever happened to the tribal ties, the sense of community, the only real thing he shared with anybody was a bottle of broken drinks. He owed Thomas something, anything. Listen, Victor said, and handed Thomas the cardboard box and contained half of his father. I want you to have this. Thomas took the ashes and smiled, closed his eyes, and told his story. I'm going to travel to Spokane first on last time and toss these ashes into the water, and your father will rise like a salmon, leap over the bridge over me, and finally his way home. It will be beautiful. His teeth will shine like a sliver, like a rainbow. He will rise, Victor, he will rise. Victor's smile was playing on drawing the sand. sings with my heart. Victor said, but I didn't imagine my father looking anything like a salmon. I saw it'd be like killing the addict or something, like letting things go after they've stopped having any use. Nothing stops, cousin, Thomas said. No, nothing stops. Thomas feels the fire go out of the pickup and walked up his driveway. Victor started the pickup and began the drive home. Victor stopped the pickup, leaned out the window, and shouted back. What do you want? He asked. Just one time when I'm telling a story somewhere. Why don't you stop and listen? Thomas asked. Just once, just once. Victor waved his arms to let Thomas know that the deal was good. It was a fair treat. That's all Thomas had ever wanted from his whole life. So Victor drove his father's pickup toward home, while Thomas went into his house, closed the door behind him, and heard a new story contained in the silence afterward.